All right, welcome back. Just zipping right through hour two here on a terrific Tuesday edition of Liquid Lunch. Vito Vasella is with me. Had to take a very important call. He's going to join me again in segment 5. But, we hear all this stuff going on out there about, Nancy Pelosi's demanding the 25th, invoke the 25th Amendment to prevent the president from exercising presidential authority and all this other. Craziest thing I've ever heard, that they want to use something that for someone who's mentally or physically incapacitated, because they want to determine his state of mind when he did something. And I don't know that any of them should be determining the president's state of mind, but someone who could talk about this a lot more intelligently than me, law professor Jonathan Adler, also constitutional attorney, joins us right now. And Professor, I got to ask you, all biases aside, just on the law, is there any way they could possibly use the 25th Amendment to throw Donald Trump out with 9 days left?
Well, the vice president and the cabinet could use it to prevent Donald Trump from exercising the powers of his office for the next 9 days. And as you already hinted at, that would be based on their concluding that he is not able to fulfill his constitutional responsibilities. But that's a judgment that they would have to make. And they have a lot more interaction with the president than we do, or that even Nancy Pelosi does. But it's not something that Congress can demand the vice president try and do. Congress has its own tools that it should use if it thinks that the facts justify it. The 25th Amendment is primarily about dealing with temporary or permanent incapacity of some sort.
Right. Like a disease or an illness or a coma or someone gets shot. But
it could include mental illness. It could include temporary insanity. It could include, mental decline that occurs as one gets older.
Understood.
It does anticipate situations where the vice president and the cabinet think the president isn't capable of doing his job, but the president disagrees. There's actually a mechanism for resolving that dispute.
Well, look,
so it's not just about physical stuff.
No, I understand that, but I would think when you're talking about the leader of the free world, it would probably take you more than 8 days to put together, an expert report or something that demonstrates why he's mentally incapacitated.
You don't need a report. You don't. I mean, the way it actually works the opposite way. Literally, if the vice president can get half of the cabinet to certify in writing that they agree with him, then it takes effect immediately. The president is immediately stripped of his powers.
Wow. So the president,
if the president objects, I'm sorry.
So we're finding out now that let me take you down a little different road so people can understand this one.
Sure.
Charles Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are now talking about a snap impeachment. Throughout history, you're a constitutional scholar. How many times have we used this snap impeachment functionality that the founding fathers brought in to the Constitution?
It's very rare. There are a few instances, one even in the early founding period, where someone was impeached shortly before they left office, and then the trial was conducted after they were out of office. That's been done a few times, but it is very rare.
Well, is there a carve-out in the Constitution for a snap impeachment without deliberation or hearing or trial or anything like that? Was that reckoned for?
The Constitution does not specify the process. The process is what Congress wants it to be. The process in the House has at times been very quick. The trial that occurs in the Senate is usually more involved. But if something more involved were going to be done, like as I said, it doesn't. The Senate trial part could actually be done after Trump leaves office if the purpose is to disqualify him from running again, which is one reason that impeachment can be invoked.
Well, isn't it strange to you that at a time where small businesses are dying, the country's facing a pandemic, we need more stimulus to bail out some of these small businesses and restaurants and salons. That I feel like this is Nancy Pelosi when she should be on the offensive, helping people of America. This is a defensive move. They're taking a lot of time and taxpayer money and resources to defend against Donald Trump running again in 4 years. That's pretty scary to me.
I think it's a real concern that, can Congress walk and chew gum at the same time, and can they deal with this concern if they think they need to deal with it while also preparing for enacting the legislation that President Biden's going to ask them to enact to deal with the pandemic, to deal with the economy, to deal with people that are struggling or help people that are struggling. That's a real challenge, and it's certainly something that they should be careful about. We've spent a lot of time devolving into partisan squabbles instead of taking care of the nation's business. And I suspect that one reason Biden won the election is because there are a decent number of Americans that are tired of that and want kind of a normal president who's going to take care of things that need to be taken care of and stop the squabbling.
Well,
and that's certainly something that we should consider.
At a time when like 75 million Americans think something was wrong, something didn't smell right in Denmark, and whether it did or it didn't, I don't know. But I'm saying a lot of people have this perception something was wrong. So doesn't it kind of deteriorate our whole process if now we find out that at any time a packed Congress and Senate can decide to eliminate a president in 7 days? It starts to become like a banana republic if we have a snap impeachment.
Well, the Senate can't convict without a substantial number of Republican votes. So it only takes a majority to impeach in the House. But for the Senate to convict and to impose any sort of punishment, whether it's removal or disqualification, the Senate needs 2/3. So the Democrats can't do it with just Democratic votes. And
right.
that's in the Constitution, and that's good for precisely the reasons you point out, that conviction in an impeachment should be based on a broad bipartisan majority. It should not be based on one group having an opportunistic ability to go after their political opponent.
Okay, now let me ask you this. I am getting besieged with these emails and messages about how Donald Trump's going to bring in the martial law and he's going to arrest all the Democrats, and the lights went out in the Vatican, and I'm sure you see all this crazy conspiracy stuff, right?
Yes.
Is there anything in the Constitution, and I'm not saying it will happen or anything, but I just want to understand if it's even possible, plausible, where Donald Trump could say, I've caught Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris all colluding to end my presidency or to do something illegal, and I'm declaring martial law. Is that a real thing?
Not the way you describe it. There are statutes on the books, like the Insurrection Act, that do provide for emergency measures. There are a variety of laws that allow for various emergency measures, but nothing of that. The most significant thing is what's called the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. That's essentially a way of being able to detain people and preventing them from being able to go to court to challenge their imprisonment, and the president can't do that. Congress has to do that. So there really isn't the president doesn't have the sort of power that a lot of these theories are based on. The president does not have the power to challenge or upset the election results. The reality is that if on January 20th, if for some reason the election results even were thrown out, the next person in line is the Speaker of the House. So if the president were even successful in somehow undoing the Electoral College vote, which he can't, but even if he could, if there's no Electoral College vote for a new president under the line of secession, the next in line is the Speaker of the House when Donald Trump and Mike Pence's term ends on January 20th.
And then who would become the vice president?
She would nominate someone, and that person would have to be confirmed by the House and Senate. So another theory out there is that.
In our last couple minutes here, there's also this 2018, 19, and apparently 20 executive order talking about foreign interference in our elections, that the president could rely on this to, call off the election or call for a revote
No.
or something?
No. Executive orders are really just ways of the president exercising powers the president already has, or telling parts of the federal government how to implement the president's policies. They don't give the president any additional power. None of these executive orders give the president any ability to suspend elections, to suspend the government, to arrest people. That's not something that's in the executive power. That we don't have a king.
Got it.
We have a president, and the president is the executive in that he executes the laws that Congress enacts. So unless Congress has enacted a law giving the president this sort of power, the president doesn't have it. And the sorts of laws Congress has enacted don't give the president anything like the sorts of authority that you see in these various conspiracy theories.
Okay. And then the Insurrection Act is the 25th Amendment or the 21st Amendment?
So the 25th Amendment is separate. The Insurrection Act is a law that was passed over 200 years ago that provides for things like calling up the National Guard and things like that in instances where it can be justified.
Got it.
So all that really does is create mechanisms to use the military or the National Guard to stem unrest. But it's not the sort of thing that can be used to arrest Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or throw out the results of the Electoral College. And again, even if you thought it could be used that way, come January 20th, Donald Trump and Mike Pence's terms end as per the Constitution. As per the Constitution, when their term ends, if there is not a new president, it goes to the Speaker of the House, who's Nancy Pelosi.
For how long?
So there is no scenario. There's no scenario in which Pence and Trump can remain in office.
Well, how long would Nancy Pelosi be president under that crazy theory?
She would be president until we figure out what the result of the 2020 election would be. But it would not.
Got it.
And there's no basis for making it Trump.
Got it. Okay. Hey, look, I am getting sick and tired of getting all these crazy messages and emails about how Trump's going to go on the emergency broadcast system and roll the tanks and, take over the country and arrest all the pedophiles. It's like too much. And that's why, we wanted to have you on to break it down and let people know that this stuff is a lot of bunk. And I appreciate you doing it so eloquently for us.
My pleasure.
All right. Constitutional attorney, law professor Jonathan Adler, breaking it all down for us. Stop listening to these conspiracy theories. Thank you very much, Professor. Appreciate it. We got to have you back again soon. You're great.